Ladies and gentlemen, Ruth Wilson. Hey everyone, welcome to Thumb Together TV. My name is Andrew Fantasia. Today we're going to be talking about His Dark Material Season 2, Episode 5, The Scholar, together. As usual, if you enjoy this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. At first, I was like, why is this called The Scholar? Because when I think of The Scholar in His Dark Materials, my mind immediately jumps to Mary Malone. And yeah, she does kind of do a big thing. She takes a big step at the end of this episode, but otherwise there's not really a whole lot of Mary Malone in this episode. But having given it some more thought, I don't think Mary is the titular scholar. I think the titular scholar is the woman of the hour, the person that we are probably going to spend most of our time talking about right now, Mrs. Coulter. Where do we even begin with her? Ruth Wilson is doing such a bang-up job playing this lady that she is starting to become one of the best villains I've ever seen. And I don't say that lightly. I've given that some thought, and I mean just every word this woman says makes her deeper and more complicated than she was 2 sentences ago. This episode just focuses primarily on her and on Lord Boreal, and even Arion Bakari, who plays Lord Boreal, is doing, he's just been supremely good from minute 1 that he appeared on this show. He's just intense and frightening, but very human. And I thought there was something kind of neat about him that I just noticed this episode, where he wears running shoes. He just wears comfortable white sneakers walking around his home. The whole time we see him, he's in the most sleek, expensive, form-fitting suits that show off just how handsome and classy a man he is. And then we see his shoes and he's just got these plain old white running shoes. I just thought that was kind of funny and kind of a nice little tick, nice little quirk about his character. He is style, but he's got the comfort. Comfort's important to the man. I get that. Coulter, on the other hand, does not wear running shoes. She walks around in these big stiletto heels because that's Coulter, baby. She is glamour all the way. She even has these fantastic sort of fish out of water moments where Boreal has taken her into our world and she's looking around at everything and he turns on his music in the basement because he's trying to set a mood. Because let's be real here, Boreal just wants to get laid. That's his sort of endgame. And Miss Coulter is not having it. She's like, oh wow, it's pretty loud, huh? That's, you listen to this stuff 24/7? And when she demands to go talk to Mary Malone, and he suggests, hey, maybe you should change because you're giving off a whole lot of, World War II vibes with your outfit right now. You don't want to stick out. He presents her with some options for clothing, and just the look on Ruth Wilson's face when she holds up a pair of jeans with one finger, as if she has no idea what the hell she's looking at, but she knows she doesn't want it anywhere on her body. But Coulter sends a very powerful message with the clothes she chooses, the everyday clothes she chooses, because they are still business formal clothing, which still exudes that message of power and of status and of glamour, which are 3 things that Coulter never wavers on in public. The only time you see those facades crack is in private moments when it's just her and her demon, and she is screaming to high hell because something has gone wrong with her plan, because usually Lyra messes her plans up. And speaking of Coulter's demon, this scene, I can't get over what this means for this character, because we know that if you get too far away from your demon, you'll live, but it hurts like hell. And when Coulter goes to visit Mary Malone at the lab, she knows she can't be walking around London with just this big, bright gold monkey following her around. That's gonna draw some eyes. So she stops the monkey from following her and makes her way into town, putting more distance between herself and her demon than any human being has any right to do. And what that tells us is that throughout that whole scene where Coulter is standing in Mary's office talking to her, it's not a long scene for a reason, because throughout that whole scene, Coulter is in terrible, terrible pain. You can kind of see it on Ruth Wilson's face. She's acting like a person would if they have like a really bad migraine, but they're still just trying to interact with people in the workplace. That's what she's got going on. She's just like, hello, tell me about my daughter. She was here. She's got that all throughout that scene, and it speaks volumes, guys. It speaks volumes about what this lady is willing to do to get her daughter back and to just succeed. Because we know Coulter's got her own end game going, and we know that it's a bit more complicated than just Lord Boreal's, I want to get me some. All I can say to wrap up Coulter's part in all of this is that she just continues to bring it. And when we get that little nugget of information of how she was a genius back in their Oxford, but they wouldn't let her publish any of her work, any of her findings, unless it was under a man's name, because the magisterium is a big ol' scary patriarchy. And we see some signs of that in this episode too. Because of all that, this bitterness, this resentment has grown inside her. And from the sounds of things, abandonment, because Azrael just kind of got her pregnant and then screwed off to do whatever the hell he does. So Marissa's villainy is a product of this terrible world and terrible circumstance that she's been born into. And now she's not necessarily making the best of it. She is making the best of it, but she's doing it on her own very aggressive terms. And she's not letting anyone or anything, including the rules of human and demon kind, stand in her way. That is powerful stuff. And that's why at the top of this episode I said Mrs. Coulter is going up there among some of the best villains this guy has ever seen. Now, everything here culminates with a very tense confrontation in Boreal's basement. Will and Lyra use the knife to sneak into the basement and grab the alethiometer, and they get it just by the skin of their ass. They get it because they weren't expecting Coulter there. Neither of them were. And when Lyra sees Coulter, she has that moment where she's like, I'm nothing like you, but then her anger gets the better of her and she becomes a hell of a lot like her, to the fact where Pan jumps on that monkey and just starts biting the shit out of him. And I've never seen Pan act that way. This is a new low for Pan and a new low for Lyra. They're acting very Coulter-esque, and you start to see the pattern. Just as Coulter became bitter and villainous because she was a product of this world, Lyra is starting to show signs of that because of this terrible set of circumstances she was born into, with these parents who frankly were not around to provide her any kind of love, having to wade her way through all of this terrible war and this magisterium trying to destroy everything. It's really making her, chiseling her out of the same unyielding mold as her mother, and that's a very dangerous thing. The difference, Mrs. Coulter didn't have a Will Perry. And I think Will Perry is going to be the one to remind Lyra of her human side and bring out that side of her through their friendship. And that's a very important word, friendship, because for as many accomplices and associates as Coulter has, she really doesn't seem to have a true friend. And that, I think, is what's going to save Lyra from stepping down the same path. And once Lyra and Will get back to Chitagaze, they are accosted by Lyanna Mormont, who is pissed because her friend was the one who had the subtle knife, and they basically took it away from him and left him for the specters, and now he's just a specter husk. And this little girl, man, somebody's got to just give her all the awards. She is so frightening. Just the way she charges at Will and Lyra, screaming at them, it's your fault, you made him like this. And she vows to get revenge on both of them. And so does her creepy blonde friend who barely ever says anything. I am scared of these two, and I know we haven't seen the last of them either. And speaking of Chitagaze, that is where our episode ends, because Mary Malone is told by the angel dust in the cave there that it is no longer going to be able to help her, that she must travel through the doorway and become the serpent, whatever that means. Mary Malone is going to have to become the serpent. To find out, we'll probably have to wait for season 3 because she's much more prominent in book 3. But who knows? They've been changing a lot of stuff around. All I know for sure is Mary Malone is in Chitagaze now, and so are specters, and that's a very dangerous combination. But anyway, that has been just one of the best episodes of this fantastic season of His Dark Materials, episode 5, The Scholar. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Andrew Fantasia. I'll see you here next time, and until then, adios.